But going back to just how they introduced the characters, yeah, the pilot absolutely did a better job introducing the characters.
100%.
There's no question.
Let's just get into the point that she was reading her own backstory to herself. Hyping herself up because she was sad.
The first 3 episodes
We're going to the
are
first episode
like
now, I guess.
a checklist of like how not to write an introduction to a story.
Oh yeah.
It's
No, there's a whole thing there.
Cavalcade
First of all,
issues.
when you jump into the first episode, you're already jumping with the assumption that you've seen the pilot. We've already established that. However,
Already strike one.
The big problem is that they spend all this time developing what the story was going to be in the pilot, and then they just change it like in the first minute of the show where they're talking about the backstory of Adam and Lilith and Lucifer being a dreamer, which was very controversial, and Jacob and I will discuss a little bit more on that.
We're gonna get into that.
Religious bias will come later.
Yes.
For now, we are simply...
we are strictly we're strictly looking
Talking about the show.
premise
I mean,
itself.
yeah, but the biggest issue in that first episode was just they changed the objective immediately.
Yeah,
like immediately, the show is no longer about the hotel; it's about this meeting with the angels.
The whole objective became more of a side point.
Yes.
From the very get-go.
Yeah.
So you already have a problem there. I mean, if you're expecting that the audience saw the pilot already, you're not even jumping off from what the pilot was trying to establish.
Which is what I was saying. Yeah, that's the issue, is that the pilot and the series don't mesh. So it's weird that it feels like the pilot, you have to have seen the pilot to fully enjoy at least the beginning of the
100%.
series.
Yeah.
When the series and the pilot do not align.
Now, to be Michael for a second, I will say the art style immediately is very fun. I think the art style is very creative. It's very interesting. Again, there's a lot of weird consistencies that are weird in the art style, but I'll get into that later. I think as it stands, the art style is creative. It's interesting.
Yes.
It's probably the most creative thing about the whole show.
The show has a lot of style. It oozes style.
It does,
I think, which is one of the reasons people like it so much, or liked it enough to get it to the point where it has a full Amazon show. So no, it's very stylish, and the music, for the most part, is also pretty stylish.
I think the music is pretty hit or miss in this regard, right? So I think there are some songs that are just not very good. But I will say this. The songs that are good, while enjoyable, the ones that are good just don't feel earned. Save for one song, I think, which we'll get to in episode 4. But yeah, like, and also the singing's good.
The singing's great. The singing's really good.
The performance is really good. I just don't,
other than Keith David.
It's so weird to me because it feels like a show that was not supposed to be a musical, and then they just slapped the musical bits in.
The pilot they had. Two songs,
that's what I'm saying. It's like it's clear that it was intended to be a musical, but the way the music is integrated into the story,
I see.
Feels really like slapped in.
That's the biggest problem. Like it could work as a musical.
Biggest issues. Watching it is that the music comes out of nowhere and smacks you in the face with a shovel.
100%.
Like, out of nowhere.
Even speaking, like sometimes mid-sentence, it'll just break out into a song.
The music,
so it'll be like, I went to the park, yes I did, and when I went to the park, I slid down a slide, and it's just so abrupt.
And then it ends just as abruptly.
That you can't even enjoy. And credit, like, I'm with you guys on this one. Credit where credit is due. The music isn't that bad.
There's several songs
done
that are
well. The
really
voices
good.
are well.
Yes,
The instrumentals are well. But it's just so abrupt that I don't care.
That clip was brought to you by Liam's crotch.
They need to drop an album.
You're welcome.
Oh God!
They need to drop an album of just the music, and I'll bet it would do pretty good.
Yeah, the music's not bad, and it's, by itself, it's not bad. But like again, like you said, integrated. I disagree with you. I think the music could very much work, and I think it is a musical by definition.
No.
But I agree with you. The integration is not good because
I know conceptually it was always meant to be a musical,
right?
But the way that they're integrating the story almost makes it feel like at some point they were like, let's ditch the musical, and then they were like, no, put the music back. Put the music back.
But here's the thing: to defend it for a second, in some areas, it's kind of funny when they just all of a sudden just start doing it, but they never fix that issue. They always never have a build-up,
or even to stress a little bit more. Sometimes the music kind of feels like it's repeating the point that was made just prior to the actual point made in dialogue. Take episode 2 when they find out like, the angel was killed, and they just basically re-say the same thing in a song.
Are you talking about the Overlord meeting?
Yes,
That's
in the
episode
Overlord.
3.
Yes,
That's episode 3.
Yes,
Is that episode 3? Sorry. It all
We
blends-
know, Brady.
I know.
We know.
It's to be fair,
okay,
the first 3 episodes blend together. So-
I'm not sure I'd hop on that one because I think the point of the musical in that one was to show off like the tension between the V's and the rest of the Overlords. I
Yes.
think that's the point of that.
Well, and also, and here's the thing. So one thing about that episode is that while they were basically kind of going back and forth before the song about what to do, right?
Yeah.
Velvet notices that Camilla, is it Camilla or Carmilla?
Carmilla, I think.
Carmilla.
Wait,
Carmilla.
No. It's Camilla Carmine.
yeah.
Camilla Carmine, thank you.
I think that's what it is.
So she knows that Camilla is like actually like concerned.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And like the song was supposed to be in a fun way to show Velvet's aptitude in reading people and
Yeah.
manipulating the scene.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point of that song. And also the song was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually one of the better songs. I liked one of the things that I noticed.
We're jumping from 1 straight to 3, by the way.
Sorry.
Apparently.
I'm
What's the
sorry,
structure?
I just stream of consciousness this stuff.
I know.
That's my bad.
But
They all blend together. Who
But
gives
please,
a shit?
after your
Yeah,
point,
it's
Brady,
fine.
let's go back to episode 1 because there's actually a couple other things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then if there's anything else you want to talk about on episode 1, we'll move on to 2. How about that?
Go ahead.
So please continue your
The
point.
last thing I was going to say, that's one of the things that I did appreciate as I was watching the show, is that the musical numbers seemed to get better as the story went on.
Yes.
The first few musical numbers, I was like, ooh.
Well,
This is gonna be rough.
also there is
And
one
then-
episode 7 that's not good.
Yes, there's one episode.
There's
It's
one
not
in
great,
episode 7 that's not
but
good.
more often than not, the later
I
songs
agree.
end up being
Yes.
better. So, and then in episode 3, it got to that one, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
If we keep this, I'll be okay.
Adam's writing, and really this goes for the whole show. Adam's writing, everyone's writing is such bare bones. It's just basic, and it's like
Okay.
you have the Disney style premise of everything. You got the goody two shoes girl. You got the villains that are obviously the villains because they're written that way. Adam has no redeeming aspects in any way, shape, or form. He acts the same way the entire show.
Yes.
And you know exactly who he is from the beginning. And where some shows, if you get a character trait and you can understand who that guy is from the first sentence that he says, that's a good thing. But when that's all that person is, and you can understand it from the get-go, that's not a good thing, especially if you're a TV series. If you're a TV series, that's a prime example of how to dive into characters. Game of Thrones. There is so much more to Jon Snow than just the first episode. With Adam in the first episode, that's all he is. And that's all he ever is throughout the entire show. I know I'm going past episode 1, but that's one of the issues with like his writing.
Yeah.
And everyone's writing, really, because again, it's the same thing with Charlie. That's all she is.
That was my biggest issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was just
well, I mean-
absolute asshole. There was no redeeming qualities
Yes.
because you
Right.
want it to be morally conflicting, so you don't know whose side to pick.
Exactly.
That's what makes it interesting. But no, he was just an absolute dickhead the
well,
whole time.
I mean, one note
100%.
characters have their use. in
Yes,
stories.
absolutely.
And I don't know if there was ever supposed to be a moment where you were like, who should I root for, heaven or hell?
Right.
I don't think that was ever supposed to be part of the deal. I think it was from the beginning you were supposed to.
One
be
quick
on.
thing. So I'm on a Discord where with a lot of people who critique movies, TV shows, and all that, and it's pretty diverse in the sense of like I spoke with Hazbin Hotel haters, enjoyers, and people like me who are kind of perhaps more on the middle ground. And one of the things that the stands will always say, like, oh, well, actually, Adam has actually more depth because in the last episode
No.
he smiled at Lute before he died,
No,
and I'm like,
no, no,
That's
no.
your fucking
not,
depth.
That's not depth. That's
You-
not, no, just own him as a one note character
Yes.
and acknowledge that like one note characters
Yeah.
can be useful in stories.
You can't all of a sudden change your mind at the end.
No, and like I don't think Adam being like all he is a misogynistic asshole. I don't think that's necessarily a flaw with the show. It would have been better if he had more character.
Very
If he
much,
had-
yeah.
and if he had more depth. I don't think it's necessarily a flaw that he didn't.
Especially since he's the first man.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
like you'd think that Adam would be like there'd be some more thought put
You
into it.
would think, absolutely,
You would think.
yes. But I don't think it's necessarily a problem with the show.
Sure,
that
Liam.
he acts that way.
I mean, for me, like when you say one note characters have their place, sure, I agree. The problem is that they're kind of establishing Adam as like the big baddie of the story,
Yeah.
and to make him the one note character seems sloppy and lazy.
Well, okay, he's not the big bad of the story. He's the big bad of the first part. And then his death is supposed to indicate that there's something more going on.
I mean, even then, though, like it takes any dramatic weight out of the show immediately when you just make him an a-hole. Because of course, I'm rooting for everyone else.
Well, yeah. I mean, I normally I would agree with you, right? And I probably do agree with you, like in most regards, even with Adam. Because a lot of my favorite shows, like the villains, there's so much depth to
Yes,
them, right?
yeah.
And like for me, the villain is, and you may all disagree if you wish, right? But for me, the villain is normally like the most important, or at least top 3 or top 2 important things
Yeah.
to get right.
Yes.
Because the villain plays an active role, right? The protagonist is always reacting to what is happening in most cases, right?
100%.
And like villains that are normally like they're just they're bad, they're evil just for the sake of being evil. Normally it's boring.
Yeah.
Right? But like there are cases where like Lord of the Rings. We all like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Saruman, cartoonishly evil.
Yeah.
But I still like him.
Yeah.
I mean, Sauron's just a fucking floating fire eyeball. But,
Well, to be fair,
I
like
him.
that's all.
Yeah.
That's also very, very differently executed. I agree with
Star
Liam in the
Wars, the
sense
original
that
trilogy,
that is
the
very
Palpatine.
cartoony.
Yeah,
just-
that's actually a better
Well,
example.
evil man in bathrobe.
Evil man in bathrobe.
That is his entire characterization
Yes.
in the first trilogy.
And I'll get more into detail in this
It's like I'm not talking.
later, but we do need to go ahead and jump to the second episode here in just a moment.
Sure.
But I do want to
I-
add.
yes. Sorry.
But I do want to add one point just to kind of follow up on that earlier. This show visually kind of reminds me of a lot of the like 2010 Cartoon Network shows that were
Yes.
coming out at the time. The problem is that those shows have much better writing behind it, and they actually develop the villains well. And if that's the style you're going to, I kind of want to see a reflection of the effort that was put into those shows. Like this show would have been they didn't know they were going to get revamped for a second season. They only had like 8 episodes. It's like, why not just go full out with just a character development story and just focus on making episodes, just building the characters as much as possible. I get that you want to have a satisfying plot, but here's the thing: if you can draw the intention of viewers in, and they did get greenlit for a second season, so I
Yeah.
guess it ended up working out.
Yay.
However, if you were concerned that you weren't going to get greenlit, spend your time just making the show as quality as possible
100%.
so that you would drastically increase your chances of getting
And also,
greenlit.
this is
Yeah,
supposed
no,
to be an adult show. I get it's a
agree.
cartoon, but it's still supposed to be aimed at adults. And you
Yeah.
did the you didn't even do the bare minimum. You did the basic elements of a character without adding the character.
Well, okay, so I think, and I'll kind of play devil's advocate here for the show for that point of like just dive in and make it a character driven story, right? Make it as good as you can on the character side, and people will love it. And I agree with you, and I absolutely do. But I think probably the original creator had this whole idea for the story, and then they were like, "You get 8 episodes," and she's like, okay, now I gotta pack as much of this story in these 8 episodes as I can, because I don't want to leave it unfinished if it doesn't get greenlit for a second season. So I'll take this part of the story and I'll try to do as much of it in these 8 episodes as I can, as well as I can, which is going to result in I would guess that there's probably some depth to some of these characters that are left in notebooks. On
100%.
the writer's desk.
It was
And I think that those probably got cut away because they wanted to have something finished. They wanted to have a finished story that if season 2 never came, you could still watch and be satisfied with.
and that's completely fair. But think about this: if we look at every individual in the hotel, and we kind of start off as a jumping point with the original concept of the show, where this hotel is about redeeming sinners.
Yeah.
and we just focused those 8 episodes on actually redeeming the sinners.
Yes.
in those
I'm not
episodes.
going to D&D, by
that
the way.
would have been a
you're not?
much more satisfying season.
No,
to me.
I
33.
agree
than
completely.
than what we get. I'm all for playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I
already
get
told
I
them.
get that
Sorry.
they want to.
It's
I
okay.
get
This
that
is
they
more
want to do it.
important.
That they want
Edit
to tell
that
the
part out just
story.
in case they
Yeah.
watch
But
this.
again, like if you have this whole big story in mind,
Yeah.
don't try to shorten it.
Which I
allow
was gonna
yourself to
say-
have the opportunity to
Yes.
actually build on it.
Yep.
And if you get greenlit for a season 2 with more episodes, then start the big story that you want to do.
Yeah.